Hello, everyone. Bill Naravane here, Master of Wine. Wanted to just do a quick video. We had the Basalt Bash, the second iteration this weekend here in Walla Walla. And a couple collectors, two or three, asked me why did Rasa come out with a wine at the $800 price point last year? So the bottle they are talking about is here. This is our Nerone. That's the authentic pronunciation of my last name. We've Americanized it to Naravane, which is fine. Call it Nerone, call it Naravane. It's perfectly fine. But this is the bottle here. We released it last year in the fall. At $800 a bottle. It is a perfect wine. Me and my brother have an agreement that we would never put anything under the Nerone label that we both personally did not feel was an absolute bang on 100 point rated wine, an absolutely perfect wine in every regard. So we did release that last year. It did get 200 point ratings, also got 299 point ratings, but it is a stunning wine nonetheless. So the question is why did we release that at that price point? Just to kind of put things in perspective, Rasa Vineyards, that's the winery I started with my brother in 2007. We make about 5,000 cases of wine a year. We did scale back a little bit last year and scaling back a little bit this year, just because the economy has been a bit soft in the wine industry. So we want to be a bit prudent. But out of those roughly 5,000 cases, we make about 2,500 to 3,000 cases that are priced in that $25 price range, a range of wine called Occam's Razor. This is the red blend, the 2024 red blend. So $25-ish price point. The goal of this wine is to get rating scores in that 92 to 94 point range, which we very consistently do on that wine. It is probably the best quality price ratio wine that you'll find on the planet. It really does drink like a $45-$50 wine. We also have a Cabernet Sauvignon in that, and a Riesling as well. And then as we move up the quality spectrum, so to speak, we have a $50 to $75 tier here. I've got Living in the Limelight. This is a Petit Verdot. This is at $75. We're huge fans of Rush, so you might recognize the Limelight reference there. Again, so now this is kind of meant in the ratings and quality spectrum, so to speak, to kind of fall in that 94 to 97-ish zone. Wines that are definitely clearly a step above quality compared to Occam's Razor, but still not wines that we consider to be absolute perfect wines or anything like that. And then we have our reserve tier of wines that are priced at $135 a bottle retail. And here I've got for you a bottle of our 2023 For the Love of the Game. See some baseballs on here. We're huge baseball fanatics and absolutely love baseball. So at this tier, 135, we're approaching wines that are very, very close to perfection, just a shade below, right? So oftentimes these get rated in that 96 to 99 point zone. And we're perfectly happy. That's kind of where it should be. We have had a few wines in that range that have at our reserve level that have scored a perfect 100 point rating in special years. That has happened. That's perfectly fine as well. And then we come to this Nerone. So about 2,500 or so 50% of our production is at the Occam's level of wines at $24. Then about 20% of our production, about 1,000 or whatever cases or so, 500 cases. Sorry, about 500 cases at that $50 to $75 range, and then we have about 1,500 or so cases that are at that $135 range. We have 6 or 7 reserve level wines that we release every year. And then we this Nerone, the $800 bottle, we only did 50 cases of this wine. So only 1% of our production is priced at $800, right? So the reason we wanted to do it is that one, and if you watch my previous video, I had in that video explained that a lot of the wineries in the state I'm talking purely quality basis, 500, 600 should not be in existence, as they're making really pretty bad stuff. And in my honest opinion, there's only about 8 winemakers or so in Washington State that can ever hope to make a perfect wine consistently. And I do consider myself in that elite category, so that top 1% of winemakers, if you will. And it's just because I've studied the hell out of the subject. Me and my brother are always studying. We're always reading up on everything and doing a lot of evaluations of wine. So why come out with something at $800? And oftentimes, I tell people that, we are in Washington State, me and my brother, because we firmly believe that Washington has some of the best terroirs in the entire world. So the question becomes, if you really do believe that, I'm not saying that every vineyard in Washington State is at the top of the pinnacle or anything like that. But, there are a handful of vineyards, about 10, 15 vineyards or so, that really can produce Syrah, Cabernet, etc., whatever, right, at the very, very top end of the spectrum, and that needs to be recognized. And so we hear a lot of wineries, because we're friends with a bunch of winery owners and winemakers, and I always hear, oh, Washington has some of the best terroirs in the world, like, from everybody, right? And it's not a contentious statement. I have to agree with that. But then I always ask these people, if you really do believe that, why don't you have anything that's priced accordingly, that is, it's competing for that very, very best in the world? I mean, Napa has how many of these wines? Probably 50 plus that are over $500 a bottle, right? One of my favorites is Harlan. I absolutely love this stuff, and that is pushing, I think, so it's $1,700-$1,800 a bottle on release. And then Screaming Eagle, which I've tasted probably about 15 times or so, is pushing around $3,000 a bottle. So the question becomes, if you believe that in your heart of hearts that Washington can deliver at that an absolutely magnificent level of quality, of perfection, why do we not have any wines that are kind of priced at that accordingly, right? So that's what kind of prompted us to release that. It's something we've kind of hemmed and hawed about since about 2016. And at the 2021 vintage, the Cabernet was absolutely superlative. And about 18 months in, I was going through and tasting all the barrels, and I was really, really excited about the Cabernet Sauvignon in particular. I called Pinto up. I said, "Hey, listen, you need to get out of here. I think we have a candidate for the Naravane. There's some absolutely stellar wines." So Pinto came out not too long afterwards, and we kind of did a blending session, and we put this wine together that we're both nodding up and down. Holy crap! We have 100-point wine on our hands, and that's when we decided to go ahead and bottle this and then price it at that $800 price point. Now, while Rasa at every tier tries to over deliver for what you get in the bottle, that's very, very true for our Occam's Razor tier, true for our QED and Living in the Limelight tier, and even true at our reserve level at the $135. Now, does that hold true for the $800 bottle? That's a hard argument to make. And the reason we kind of chose 800, we that's a good number. It is still less than half of what Harlan is charging for a new bottle. But we did the tests, blind tests with numerous 100-point wines from Napa, Harlan and Colgan and Screaming Eagle. Put them on the same table with the First Gross Mouton Rothschild and Latour and Unico from Spain, Grange and what's that other one? Australis from Australia. So the 100-point wines across the board, and said, does this wine really stack up? And we were shocked that it stacked up on every single one of those tastings. So we weren't deluding ourselves. The quality is there, right? And at this level, actually, all of the levels, the wines need to be technically precise, so that organic chemistry, microbiology has to be on point. There's no excuse for that. But at our reserve level tier and our Nerone level, it needs to be more than technically precise. There has to be this artistic stamp on these wines to really make it compelling, because especially at that price point, $800, it kind of has transcended into art. I mean, mean, that's how I think of it. I oftentimes joke, I am not a winemaker. I am an artiste, right? My medium is grape juice, right? But really, even though in that, all joking aside, that is kind of how I do view this at the upper end of the spectrum, and that is what we're going for. So we have a wine that absolutely delivers on that explosive, magnificent bouquet in the glass. The initial attack is absolutely fantastic. The layering on the palate, the seductiveness on the palate, the tannins, every bit of aspect in that wine is on point. And then you have this finish that goes on for about 2 minutes plus, very high intensity, very high concentration. It delivers on all of those facets. That is a 30, 40-year wine in the cellar. It will likely outlive me, but it is absolutely fantastic. And there is a market for such wines. Now, I have some friends that are absolutely fabulously wealthy that drink these type of wines on a very, very routine basis. I love it when I get to go to their houses and their cellars, and they're like, "Hey, open up whatever you want." And I'm not shy. I'll grab that bottle of DRC that's $10,000 a bottle, or the Petrus, or the et cetera, et cetera, that are very, very expensive wines that I hope to be someday be fabulously wealthy, that I can do that and drink those wines on a way too often basis. But there is definitely a clientele for these wines, that they have the means, they want the best of the best, and money is rather immaterial for them. They become so successful, it doesn't matter if the wine is $500 a bottle or $5,000 a bottle. That's not going to really affect them. So these are the folks that we've pitched the wine to. They've tasted the wine, it's like, oh my God, this is incredible. And some of them have walked away with 3 bottles, 6 bottles, that type of sales. So it is a serious thing. Now, what we're going to see more than likely is a bunch of wineries coming out, possibly at $500 or $1,000 a bottle or $1,200 a bottle, whatever that price tag is. The egos kind of run high in the Washington wine industry. Some are justified and some are completely not justified. But as I say, it doesn't take any difficult work to price a wine at $1,000 a bottle. Get your pricing gun out and change it to $1,000 and slap it on the bottle. What it really will come down to is, does that wine deliver the goods or not, right? If you put $1,000 price tag on a wine that's only a 90-point rated wine, that is just not quite there, you're doing a huge disservice to your customer base, right? They may buy it once, but they're not going to buy it again. So regardless of that, when you cross that threshold, $200 or $300 or more than that, those wines better be pitch perfect, right? In every regard. And if they're not, then don't price it at those levels. You're going to probably wind up shooting yourself in the foot. But when you do make a wine that is absolutely perfect, you should have the guts to put it out there, right? And whatever price you feel comfortable at, whatever price you feel justifying it at, that's perfectly fine. And we hope to see this change in the Washington wine industry, because we do need a few wines that are at that ultra premium level, right? Because we are every bit as good at the very top end of the spectrum. The wines are every bit as compelling as the Harlans and Screaming Eagles and Colgans and the Mouton Rothschilds and Latour and all of that stuff. We can do that in Washington State. We're not just value wines. So that is the reason we wanted to release this Naravane at that price point. Some people get it immediately when I explain it to them, and some people are like, "Oh, I'd never spend more than $50 for a bottle of wine." Well, this is not for you then, right? I'm so sorry to say that, but there are people that do get it, that do get the passion of what we're doing, and really see that these are works of art, not just wine. It's just transcended the beverage part of it, all right, and has really become liquid art in many, many ways. So I would appreciate your thoughts, your candid thoughts. Please leave a comment if you think that we're completely nuts. My wife might agree with you. Anyway, if you got a chance to try it, if you like the wine or you think we're completely off base, I do hope you will give Washington wines a serious try. There are some wineries that are doing absolutely phenomenal stuff at the very top end of the spectrum, and please don't just poo poo it because it's from Washington. Would love to hear your thoughts. Please put a comment in there if you're so inclined, and I will respond. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for listening. All right, bye bye.